Now, when you pick up, we ended here at 2 Chronicles. Now, when you pick up Ezra at the beginning, chapter 1, it says, now in the first, it's basically saying the same thing that we just read in 2 Chronicles at the end. In the last chapter, 2 Chronicles at the end. Now in the first year of Cyrus, the king of Persia, that the word of Yah by the mouth of Jeremiah might be fulfilled, Jeremiah, right? Yah stirred up the spirit of Cyrus, king of Persia, that he made a proclamation throughout all his kingdom, and put it also in writing, saying, thus says Cyrus, king of Persia, Yah, the strong one of heaven, hath given me all the kingdoms of the earth. You hear with that? Yah had given him all the kingdoms of the earth, and he hath charged me to build him an house at Jerusalem, which is in Yehudah. Who is there among you of all his people, his strong one, or his God be with him, and let him go up to Jerusalem, which is in Yehudah, and build the house of Yah, the strong one of Israel. He is the God, or strong one, all right, which is in Jerusalem. And whosoever remains in any place where he sojourns, let the men of his place help him with silver and with gold and with goods and with beasts, besides the free will offering for the house of Yah, or God, that is in Jerusalem. Then rose up the chief of the fathers of Yehudah, Benjamin, okay, and the priests and the Levites, with all them whose spirit Yah had raised to go up to build the house of Yah, which is in Jerusalem. And all they that were about them strengthened their hands with vessels of silver and gold and with goods and with beasts and with precious things, besides all that was willingly offered. Verse 7. Also Cyrus the king brought forth the vessels of the house of Yah, which Nebuchadnezzar had brought forth out of Jerusalem, and put them in the house of his idols. Okay, God, lowercase. In the house of his idols. So all the vessels that had been taken out of the temple of Yah in Jerusalem by Nebuchadnezzar before he burned it down, Nebuchadnezzar took those things and took them up into the house of his idols up in Babylon. Okay? So now, what does it say in verse 8? Even those did Cyrus, king of Persia, bring forth by the hand of Mithridates the treasurer, and numbered them unto who? Sheshbazzar, the who? The prince of Yehudah. Okay? Sheshbazzar, this is who Cyrus gave all of the artifacts that had been taken out of the temple of Yah before Nebuchadnezzar burned it down. When Cyrus conquered the Babylonians, you understand? He took all of those artifacts out of the temples of Nebuchadnezzar, of the Babylonians, where they had placed them with their idols. And he gave them into the hand of Sheshbazzar, who was who? The prince of Yehudah. Now, who is this Sheshbazzar? Okay? Sheshbazzar is Zerubbabel. And you're going to read about him in the next chapter. Okay? It says in verse 2. Okay? We're going to pick it up from the top of chapter 2. Now, these are the children of the province that went up out of the captivity of those which had been carried away, whom Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, had carried away up into Babylon, and came unto Jerusalem and Yehudah, every one unto his city, which came with who? Zerubbabel. All right. Now it tells you Zerubbabel, and you'll see this over in chapter 2, further on in chapter 2, verse 63. He was called the Tirshatha. What does Tirshatha mean? That's Persian for governor. And Zerubbabel was Sheshbazzar. Remember now, when these people were taken, when our forefathers, the children of Israel were taken into captivity, they were given captive names, like many of us still are carrying around here today. Okay, captive, we're going by a captive name. Well, Zerubbabel's captive name was Sheshbazzar. Just like if you go back into Daniel chapter 1 and read about the same captivity that Zerubbabel came, he was one of those that came out with Daniel, Mishael, Hananiah, and Azariah. As I said, their captive name was Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And you'll read in chapter 1 Daniel where Daniel's name was changed from Daniel to Belteshazzar. Okay? So Sheshbazzar was Zerubbabel. And he was who? The prince of Yehudah. And this is who Cyrus gave these artifacts into his hand. Isn't that what we just read over here in Daniel chapter 9? The commandment came forth to who? The Messiah, the prince, the anointed prince. Messiah just means anointed. That's all it means. You can look it up. This is where you get Christ from. Okay? Christ just means anointed. Look it up. Doesn't mean anointed one. It just means anointed. Okay? And you had plenty of people who were anointed. All the prophets were anointed. You follow? Okay? You go back in the Numbers in chapter 22 in the book of Numbers, and you can see where a jackass was anointed to speak to Balaam. You follow? You understand? Many people are anointed today. All the people who know, who have come into the understanding that they're Israel, are anointed. Okay? But now it's time to turn from this idolatry. As I said, we go back here into chapter 9, Daniel. And it says what? We're going to pick it up in the middle of we'll pick it up from top of verse 25. Know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the commandment to restore and to build Jerusalem unto the Messiah the Prince. We just read that, didn't we? Over here in Ezra. The commandment came forth to restore and build Jerusalem unto the Messiah the Prince. The Prince of Yahud, who was who? Sheshbazzar. Sheshbazzar is Zerubbabel. So how is this talking about this idol of Christianity? It's not talking about that, but that's how you see these preachers and these pastors and these ministers, you understand, from the Pope on down, they'll tell you this is talking about Jesus over here in Daniel chapter 9. And all you got to do is go over here in chapter 1 Ezra, the last few verses in 2 Chronicles 36, the first chapter of Ezra, and you can see that's a lie. It's not talking about any entity called Jesus or Yeshua or Yahashua. It's talking about Zerubbabel, whose captive name was Sheshbazzar. He was the Tirshatha or governor. You read all this in Ezra. Remember now, the first 6 chapters of the book of Ezra is flashback. Ezra's not talking about the time he lived in. He's talking about the time of Zerubbabel and Yahashua. Because it was a Yahashua during the time of Zerubbabel. He was the high priest. Tells you all of this in the book of Zechariah. Okay? So now, let's go back over here in Daniel 9. What does it say? Verse 25. Now, it says, to restore and to build Jerusalem unto the Messiah the Prince, know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the commandment to restore and to build Jerusalem unto the Messiah the Prince shall be 7 weeks, 62 weeks, 69 weeks. So with 1 week left of the 70 years, the commandment came forth from Cyrus. This is what we just read over there in the book of Ezra, the last part of 2 Chronicles 36. Cyrus issued the decree to Zerubbabel, Sheshbazzar, and any and all of Israel that was under his dominion. But just for the 3 tribes that had been taken out in 606, it was for all Israel. Even the 10 tribes. All who wanted to go back, build this temple, was free to go. Okay? But now again, when we go over here to Ezra, all right, it's going to tell you it gives you the number of all who came back. In verse 64, okay, of the 2nd chapter of Ezra, it tells you what? In verse 64, chapter 2 Ezra, out of all of those, what, maybe 3, 4, 5 million of Israel that was under Cyrus's dominion, it was a few million of them. Look how many came back in verse 64. The whole congregation together was 42,360.